Okay, my darlings, you see all of my glorious clutter right here. And so what a collage is it's an opportunity to take things and put them together to create a new image. I'm actually going to use this page in my sketchbook because my son started drawing something here, has no intention of ever finishing it, and rather than it being a wasted space, it's going to become something. So I'm going to set that out here. One example that we created the last go around, when I had the peers and buddies do this, we cut out shapes and this one, our focus was food. I think this time I said, something you do with your families, and I could make the argument that I enjoy cooking and eating with my family. So, but the idea is that instead of taking the whole picture of the carrots and everything, I've actually cut the carrots out. I found a separate picture of a plate that I thought was pretty groovy. I found separate pictures and I've arranged them in kind of a table format on my paper. So I'm thinking about using up the whole space. So this is one option for you, just to cut out actual images and arrange actual images. And this doesn't have to be realistic. Like you could have like a cat, jumping out from the carrots or something. I don't know. All kinds of really cool pictures out there that you can totally arrange, and it can even become this surrealistic, how in the world does that relate to my family type deal, and you guys can play around with meaning. So in the meantime, I got all these other crazy bits and odds and ends, and the funny thing is that I actually kind of save things. These were left over from the food collage, and I just haven't had the heart to throw them away because I like them. I think they look kind of interesting. I actually have a file folder of random odds and ends at home because I figure, oh, wait a minute, I might use that someday. I worked hard to get that. I'm looking for a particular image that I pulled out of a magazine earlier. So these are magazines. There's the image I'm looking for right there. I did have, if you look at this, there are edges from my, this was an advertisement and they had coupons down the side of it, and I pulled it out because I really, really like that blue color in there and I like that green color in there, and I'll show you in a couple of minutes what I'm going to do with those. But you gotta love advertisements for medications because sometimes they have full sheets of just pretty. And I think that's pretty once I get going here. So I'm going to cut this down to be the size of my paper here. If you happen to have an X-Acto knife, you're welcome to use that. I wanted to try to keep my materials to that of which, that of what you have at home. I did really like that image too. I thought that was cool. Maybe a pretty sad, but just this yellow half a house was really kind of interesting, but I decided to keep it light. We're all kind of in a weird spot. That's the United States of America. Now I just noticed that. Would it be bad of me to cut that? Who knows? Maybe I'll think about it later. Okay. Hey, look at that. I got another page under here. My half a yellow house still exists. I didn't realize that was 2 pages like that. Alrighty. So, I don't know. Maybe what I'll do is make this like a pop-up picture. I'm gonna go ahead and put this on here. It's kind of nice to start a collage with a theme because sometimes one gets a little overwhelmed. And they're like, I don't know, there's so many really cool things to look at. And so that's kind of how we came up with food. I think it was possible that like Anna Grace or Garrett suggested food, and I went along with it because I thought it sounded like something totally applicable and totally easy. Okay, so there's the surface. This is what I'm going to create my collage on. If you didn't want to do it this way, if you didn't want to have just an image to put stuff on, you could totally do it this way. This is totally the brown paper that I used. There's my brown paper. And then I added stuff to that. So it's good either way. You could actually, like I glued this down on another drawing. You might have another drawing laying around that you want to glue on. So it's entirely up to you what you want to build up on. Some of the coolest collages I've seen are on cardboard. Some I have pieces of flight maps in here that are all kind of cool. So lots of options. So this is kind of a cool picture. And I'm developing kind of my thoughts as I go along. I really like this little purple flower, but if I cut this little purple flower into a different shape, I lose the actual context of the flower itself. And it becomes kind of almost like a moon. And this down here, that bright spot, I don't know if you guys remember the, I don't know if you guys remember the, oh, whatchamacallit. Oh, brain's farting. That one moment a couple summers ago, the very beginning of the school year, the solar eclipse, that's it. My family and I went to see that. And that's starting to just kind of feel like the eclipse to me. And that was such a cool moment. Strangely, kind of like right now, where you have this thing that's happening outside, where we went to the park last night to walk, and granted we didn't get near anybody, but people were smiling and talking, and the neighbor kids that might as well be my kids as well were kind of, they went with us, and the kids probably were not practicing safe social distancing, but these other kids might as well be my kids too. And it was just their family and our family, so there were less than 10 of us. But what was so cool about the eclipse is that we had just this moment of quiet and kind of this awe where collectively our humanity just kind of joined for just a few minutes, and we just did this stuff together. I cut this out from the top of that car commercial because that looks kind of like grass in the dark. And like I said, this could totally become just your ideas, you know, it doesn't have to be an exact representation of it. And so for anybody who's a little scared of drawing, this is kind of nice. This is a nice medium because it kind of equalizes as long as you can put images together. So if you cut your paper kind of fun, not quite sure what I'm doing with this. A lot of stuff, a lot of times I just kind of put stuff together and then I decide, oh, wait a minute, I don't have enough room for that. Or, hey, I want to do it this way instead. Or, you know, so I just kind of play. And I think that, I hope that, you know, maybe you guys have some time to kind of play. And maybe this gives you some time to play. If you can see if you have anybody in your family that's willing to play too, this might be a way to just take our minds off of the garbage that's going on right now. So I was trying to cut them back and forth, and if I go back and kind of pull these apart, I start to kind of see my grass. And on the assignment that I shared with you, I put on there organic shapes and geometric shapes. If you feel that you can represent your family using geometric shapes, by all means do that. I included links to this really cute little TV series called Maddie and Dada, which is what I shared with the families of our peers, or our buddies. And it shows Henri Matisse, and he was kind of a cubist, so a few of you had Art 1, and so you should remember Cubism. But Cubism, for those of you that might not know that, is a movement started back in the 1920s and kind of boiling all of life down to its most simple aspects. So there, I got like a little grassy, see, I got this light above here, and I'm afraid that if I turn it off, hey, you can see it. Great. Okay, now we're playing with fire. Not really. I had this Golf Digest. There's some really kind of fun pictures on here. I kind of like my pond. I hear people coming down the hallway. It's so weird to be sitting in a school and not have students and have limited teachers, but I don't know if I'll leave all this stuff on here. Like I said, I do a lot of altering after I get stuff on there and get stuff off of there. And maybe I just like that, or maybe I want to do something more. I feel like it's so dark. I kind of want to keep this down here, but I'm going to let the top of this go for right now, and maybe I'll save that for later because that's kind of a fun little shape there, showing distance and space. I might not like this pond after a while either. This is kind of a fun shape. We went to this park out in the middle of nowhere, Kentucky, with probably more people than the entire county has that were collected in this park. And they had these little areas just set up with people and their stuff. So you might take like little structures and put them around here. That's actually kind of funny right there. So maybe that wasn't a pond, maybe it was a sand pit. There are no cars to speak of. There was a tree or several trees. But that was a leaf, a big leaf that I cut apart, and I really kind of liked it. Maybe I take this leaf and I turn this into the tree. But what I'm going to do is just continue to cut this apart. I'm going to continue to add, and I'm going to just continue to build. At this point, you guys are probably gouging your eyeballs out and saying, okay, Harwood, you've talked for way too long. I'm going to try to come up with some like little shapes because I want this to be the focus. So if my family is on here, we're going to be itty bitty down here, maybe little blobs of color or something to represent, you know, us kind of laying down and looking up at the stars and at the sun, and with our sunglasses, of course. But we'll talk to you all later. Have some fun with this and see if you can come up with something. Hey, I got blueberries here. Maybe we get represented by blueberries because they're delicious. Y'all take care. And I did promise you, for some of you who don't have access to stuff to collage with, you can totally do this using just shapes. And you can draw shapes. Let me see here. That's mostly shapes. That's a mandala. You know, and you could draw shapes that kind of fit in together. You could actually cut out shapes and create a mandala type thing and maybe include things within it that might represent your family, represent you. It can represent this moment in your life, or this can represent something that happened a while ago. It doesn't have to be, it could be a dream world that, you know, you want to be someday, you want to go someday. So things to think about. Have some fun with this. The turn-in links are available on Canvas, and I'll be in touch. Thanks. Sorry, I'm trying to find the